globe, and diasporans who have moved from one homeland to another homeland or making difference, breaking down barriers, as we would say.
Most definitely. And of course, you've been listening. We were in Jamaica. Now we are getting ready to get on that plane because I feel like landing in Tobago, the original Tobago. As we say, a hearty welcome to you, Mr. Sherwin, Dr. Sherwin A. A pleasure to have you on the program on today.
I am blessed and I count it a privilege to be on this medium, and I'm loving what I'm hearing so far. Thank you all so much for giving me this opportunity.
Joining us on today, we've got the dynamic, the phenomenal, the gorgeous, the beautiful, the well-dressed, the singing sensation in that of Miss Joan Myers. Miss Myers, a hearty welcome to you, love.
Wow, I feel like I'm a rose among some thorns.
Well, I don't know who you're talking about now. Don't be like that. They're all handsome fellas.
Hey, Mr. Darwin, and hey, Mr. Rainey. How are you? Hi, Lady D.
Hi, Miss Joan. Hi, Miss Joan. And on today, like I said, we're going into Tobago. Let me just briefly introduce this fantastic gentleman to you. When I read his bio, I says, what? All right then, graduated Police Training College in Trinidad in the year 1985, diploma in criminal law, served as a police officer for 10 years. I wonder if it's 10 long years or short years. Trained by DEA in 1987, worked in organized crime and narcotic unit for 7 years. Dr. Ramey attended Hugh Wooden Law School, University of the West Indies, Trinidad, 1986 to 1988. Completed criminal law enforcement studies. Caribbean Nazarene College at Trinidad, 1994 to 1998. BA Theology, pastored in Point Forthing Church of the Nazarene in Trinidad from 1995 to 2003. Served as a senior pastor, 1995 to 2005. Point 14 Nazarene, Trinidad. Gave visionary oversight to a 750-seat new sanctuary. Church grew from 35 in 1995 to 450 by the year 2005. Lead church in several Caribbean mission and outreach projects. Lectured in sociology, theology, and leadership administration at Caribbean Nazarene College, CNC, Trinidad, in the year 1998 to 2006. Served as Dean of Students and Academic Dean at various intervals at CNC. Developed and implemented curriculum for CNC Social Work BA program. And it goes on and on and on, but we will dissect and introduce as we go along. Again, we say to you, Dr. Ramey, a hearty welcome, sir. Wayne?
Thank you so much, Lady D. I really appreciate the opportunity that you're giving me to be a part of this diasporic conversation. I already feel very comfortable with the environment, and I love what I'm hearing.
Wonderful.
Well, Dr. Ramey, I must say you're certainly a diasporan by your record. Record speaks for itself. Tobago, you say, not Trinidad, because remember, it's a twin island nation, Trinidad and Tobago. And personally, I've been there and I love Tobago because Tobago love Jamaicans, you know.
Oh, okay.
But I digress. Just to say, traveled this journey, Tobago, Trinidad, the U.S., New York, Texas. I mean, first question to you. What led you from being a police officer to be a man of the cloth? I mean, it's theology that seems to dominate your bio. That's a leap in our minds, but it may not be for you. How did that happen?
It was a major shift, but as a police officer, and I mean, I got in there when I was 18 years old. I would not trade that 10 years that I spent in the police service for anything. But my lifestyle was seriously compromised. And I recall I went to New York on vacation, went to the clubs with my cousin and me, and my mom would beg me to get my act together. Was going somewhere that I should not have gone, got in a bad motor vehicle wreck. I came out of the wreck unscratched, and the person who was with me, she ended up in hospital, broken rib, messed up facial recognition was something that could not be recognized. When the police officers came on the scene, and I told them I was driving, they did not believe that I was driving. Continued doing whatever I wanted to do, and I remember one night again going to the clubs, and when I came home, my mom was praying. And she was praying that, you know, God, if even you have to take him to heaven with one foot gone and one eye missing, I prefer you do that than he goes to hell with everything organized. Mm-hmm. And I said, what kind of prayer is that? My mother is supposed to love me. That was a changing point in the way I started looking at life. And my dad would always say that, you know, you can do something for as long as you want, but not for as much as you want, but not for as long as you want. And I came to an intersection in my life where I had to make a decision. And it was a very easy decision for me to make because I was like a train waiting to get into a wreck. And from that time to now, I have not turned back.
Dervin.
Yeah. How do you recall? I mean, you mentioned that moment, but surely we know that from time to time we go astray. What would you say has been responsible for your stick-to-itiveness as far as your purpose is concerned?
I think a genuine love for people. And as I traveled, as I got the opportunity to travel, and I traveled a lot while I was in the police service, but it was different to when I got involved in ministry. I got to see poverty in a way that I never understood. And you know, when you grow up in the Caribbean, you could be poor and don't even know that you're poor because you're happy. You know, whatever is given to you, your parents cook, you eat it. If you're growing up in the 70s and 80s, we could not put a meaningful definition to what poverty looks like. But I remember going to Guatemala and El Salvador and seeing persons lining up to get a small bag of food for hours. And I saw what real poverty looked like. And that really caused me to understand that if we are on this planet, there's always a purpose that we have to serve that far supersedes us. I came to the United States and got into teaching, and I did a project with City University that was a life-changing exercise for me too. We went to a place called Camden in New Jersey. And at that time, that was one of the highest crime areas in the United States. And I saw poverty there too. And what really had a significant impact on me is that on one side of the highway is Camden, on the other side is a place called Cedar Hill in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. All the luxury cars, the rich people live on that side of the highway, and the poor people and the disenfranchised lived in Camden, New Jersey. And so to see poverty, I always believe that there's a redemptive purpose that we can be a part of in some way to alleviate some of the poverty that we see. And I think that kind of is what has kept me focused on, and it's not that I have been perfect during that time. I have had my moments of indiscretion, but I would always come back to that deeper purpose to help people.
Lady.
before I ask my question, I just want to involve Miss Joan Myers. She's going to be wearing quite a few different hats on here today in regards to Dr. Ramey and his organization. So I'm just going to ask you to just jump in briefly so you'll be part of the conversation, Joan, please.
Sure. I have met Mr. Ramey just like a few weeks ago. We have been on several Zoom talks. What really attracted me to what he's doing is his heart for people, for compassion. I also studied at Trevecca Nazarene University and found out that he's also, actually started in the Nazarene Church, from which I am associated with. They have several educational institutions around the US that are accredited with the educational board. And I had an opportunity to study Christian ministry. I don't want to be a pastor, but I wanted to understand ministry in a deeper sense. And so I had the opportunity to be a part of Oliver's church, and he did a doctoral program in compassionate ministry. And when I realized what Dr. Ramey was doing in terms of helping these, you know, unemployed persons here in the US and those living the underserved in other countries such as Africa and India, and then I was on a call with them, those guys work from their heart. And they wanted an opportunity to study and to be learned biblically, as well as dealing with the humanitarian side of life. I volunteered myself to help. And that is to help them just to get internet, not to come to the States to study, but just simple internet to be able to study online. And I was really moved by it. And as a result of that, I am in here in this conversation today. So I've used my musical skills. That's what I'm gifted with, where I can use to raise money. So next Saturday, we're doing a virtual concert with very, very talented people.
And Joan, before you elaborate on that, I'm just going to ask you to hold just a minute while we go ahead and take care of the bills. If you're tuning in for the first time, we say hearty welcome to you. Just tuned into Global Diaspora Show. You probably missed a part of it. When we come back, we'll catch up a bit with you. Our special guest on today is Dr. Sherwin Ramey. Of course, you know, we've just listened to the beautiful singer, Miss Joan Myers. And as per usual, those two handsome fellas holding my hand. So you just stay right where you are. We'll be right. Anyways, let's get back to Dr. Sherwin Ramey. I see here, Dr. Ramey, where in 1995, you had a congregation that grew from 35 to 450 in such a short space of time. Share with us, what did you do? Is it that you're such an excellent preacher, or what it is that you did that, you know, it grew that fast? I'm curious.
It had a little bit to do with the preaching, but it had more to do with building relationships.
Okay.
As a former police officer, when I went, that was one of those rural boroughs in Trinidad, and I knew police officers there too. And one of the things that I did when I got there was go back to these guys who, of course, were in absolute shock that I was actually doing what I was doing. For some of them, the last time they saw me, I was doing different things and sounding differently and acting differently. And I started asking them to come to the church. I got involved in a lot of community activity. One of the things that we as Caribbean people love is cricket. And I'm a cricket historian. I got involved in cricket competitions in the local community. I started to do a little demographical study, and I realized again that one of the things that was lacking was educational opportunity for some of the younger persons there. So the ministry really focused on the younger persons. And one of the things that I think we have to redefine as it relates to how we define church is that church must not be seen as a place where we are consumed with correcting people. We got to meet people where they are at and take them on a journey and give people the opportunity to fail. be there for them, give support, minister to needs, and not so much the numbers. And what happened after a while is that people were telling other persons, and the church began to grow exponentially. And we were able to build a brand new building from ground up without having to borrow any finances from the bank. Even when the bank offered to finance, we didn't. We were able to build it, and see some of the young people today are ministers, attorneys, some are police officers. One of the guys who's actually pastoring here right now, I actually taught him when he was at college, and now he's a police officer and pastoring that church and doing very well still. So I think it's about focusing on the needs of people more than anything else. I think that is what really would cause that church to grow.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Pastors that's listening out there, I hope you're very attentive and probably want to implement some of what he just explained to us. Fellas, Dervin?
Dervin is muted.
Not hearing you.
How do you think, from your perspective, how do you think people of faith should view all that has happened within the 1 year plus so far in terms of COVID-19? Because we have seen and heard all kinds of mixed reactions, both in the initial stages and subsequent to that. And it invariably boils down to one's faith. And sometimes we question our faith, or we question God and all of these things. How does one cope? One who's supposed to be a person of faith, process all that has been happening and is still happening without losing faith?
Yeah, that's a very, very potent question, because I've seen people break under the pressure of the pandemic. I have also seen the pandemic creating multiple opportunities for the church to be of service. What I think we have been faced with, however, is this pandemic has, and I can speak from the European context and also from a North American context, it has opened that which was dressed up. I think we have seen racial discrimination show itself in ways that we never thought we would have seen. We have seen terrible leadership, poor governance. We have seen marginalization as we have never seen it before, but it was always there. We found ourselves as a church organization getting engaged in food distribution. And one of the things that I have seen is that hunger is no respecter of persons. And people, yes, your faith is challenged, but I believe that God has placed the church, and if we give proper context to the church, here for a time such as this. But we cannot afford to be complacent. And what we have seen that is very disheartening, well, I can speak for myself, is that I have seen a lot of churches that have been complicit to that which is totally unscriptural. What has happened to our brother Floyd, being killed openly by a police officer. And some of the churches have not spoken out openly against that kind of injustice. And that challenges our faith. It causes our faith for a person on the outside looking in to say that these people are phony and they are fakes. And we have to come to a place, a reality check has to be done where the church has to be very relevant in speaking out to injustice when it does happen. And I am grateful that I have been a part of that movement. And the church that I am at right now in Dallas, Texas, we have been very engaged and very vocal in what we have seen. And I believe when community sees that, they are seeing faith in action. And so in spite of the impact of the pandemic, people are realizing that God is real. We can still trust God for who he is, and we don't have to give up. I think it has strengthened me personally and many persons that I'm close to. They have been strengthened through this time.
A lot of times, oh, go ahead, Wayne.
Yes, Dr. Raby. It is quite interesting that you first started talking about the impact of seeing poor people, whether it was in the United States or in other countries. And it just puts me back in mind of when Martin Luther King started his journey with regards to civil rights. Of course, he was in the pulpit, but he started this journey being concerned about poor people. A lot of people don't realize that. They thought his journey started with minority and rights for Black people. And he started with the poor people. That was his first actual march. Now, one of the things that he did in order to have that authority to speak on that level was that he went and got himself qualified. You know, I'm looking at your resume here, and I'm seeing all your academic achievements, you know, what you have done actually on paper. Somebody can go back and look at it and see your journey. So you're not just talking off the top of your head. You have both experience and education that you're trying to bring to the situation of how religion and churches impact our society. Yeah. Now, when you first started as a diaspora, as somebody coming into, say, a new space, the United States, academically, what was the acceptance like for you, where you came in as a student and then eventually found yourself as the teacher, as a professor, as a lecturer? What was that experience like for you in terms of acceptance?
Well, there was a mixed. It was mixed, to be quite honest. But I remember meeting when I applied to teach at City University. I met a lady from Pakistan, and excellent lecturer. And she said something to me that stood out with me. And she would look at me and she would say, "If you make it a problem, it becomes a problem. But if you see the problem as an opportunity, then it becomes an opportunity." And so, because of the way City University was structured, and because you have multiple campuses, Medgar Evers, you have Kingsborough, you have campuses throughout, and the diaspora. I mean, I had some great Jamaican friends that I worked with, and also that I had in classes, and we would go every day play soccer. We spent a lot of time together, and we formed a unit that they are still my friends today. It was easy there, but I want to show the total contrast. When I moved to Texas and got into education, it was different. The reception was not as I had hoped. And I saw discrimination take place in ways that was so very open. I was told that you are not qualified to get a position, and that position was given to someone else who was less qualified. And a Caucasian friend of mine said, he said, "You're not one of us." With tears in his eyes, he said that to me. He says, "You are not one of us." He said, I know you deserve it, and you should get it, but you are not one of us. And I saw that. I saw how it impacted on the way curriculum was developed for our kids out here in Texas. If you're Latino and you're Black and you're in a certain zip code, the curriculum that you get is seriously compromised. And that was something that I have been passionate about and still am now. And I have a space in this church to seriously and aggressively go after it. God has opened some opportunities for me to interact with persons who are members of the church, who are judges and councilwomen and councilmen, and even the police chief in this area is a friend of the church. And we talk about what we need to do so that there will be what I will call a fair opportunity for every single child that comes into the educational system. So up north, it's different. You walk on the streets of Brooklyn, you see us. But when you come to Texas and you go to Dallas and you start moving around, it's different. And when you go into the system, you are treated, you will always be an outsider. Whether you're born here or not, as long as you are not a Caucasian person, you would always be seen as an outsider.
Well, clearly you have kicked down the barriers, and with that, I'll turn it over to Lady D, and then.
That really touched me right there. I was getting ready to ask you if you're getting ready to relocate. You know, after a while, it's like really beating a dead horse, and you know that it's never going to change. And the only change that might come about is that it gets worse. But praise God, you've got God. Makes a big difference.
Yes.
And what I'm going to say and do next, I know I'm in sync with you, Dr. Ramey, because you're a pastor as well, and Joan, and I'm not making any assumption. I've been around Attorney Wayne Golden for a long time, and I've been getting to know a little bit more about Durban. So I don't think any of us here will be offended by the step that I'm going to take now, because we are passionate about helping, passionate about giving without any returns. I think when I spoke to you and spoke to Joan, I see where you both had to be. It was compulsory that you be here in the studios with us today, because it starts with HELP. And if Wayne, Durban, and myself can stretch a hand to help some kid or some kids or somebody out there, that's what we're all about. So just to switch gear because of the time constraint, I'm gonna just ask Joan to briefly explain to us about what's coming up to help in this area of helping through funds. Joan, please.
Sure. So my name is Mother Teresa Jr. Helping is a really big part of my life. I have always given, not necessarily money, but I've always given of my time, and it is always a rewarding feeling. I mean, for me, this pandemic alone has really caused me to be a little bit more known because of giving. I have done several charities, and I've not gotten a penny, and I have no regrets because I committed to doing it. So when this opportunity came, I also did not find it hard. Like, how can I help was easy for me to think. So God has blessed me with friends who are in the musical industry, in the church and outside of the church, to do for the good of others. And so next Saturday, April 10th at 6:30 p.m., I have brought on board with me Huntley Brown, which is a world-renowned pianist. He actually was a part of the Billy Graham Ministries. He's going to be in concert. I have Courtney Fadlin, who studied music at Berklee's College, is going to be on board. Huntley's daughter also is going to be on board. There's a gentleman by the name of Mark Isaacs out of Trinidad. Courtney's from Guyana. I have Glacia Robinson, who has a very, very powerful story of how you can help, that are also going to be on board to make this news. We talk about Christian advocacy through music, as well as there's a triplet from Jamaica, beautiful girls who are just gifted to sing. And I've never met them, but I've always watched them, and I called and invited their mom, and she was very excited. As a matter of fact, in the same night, those girls are actually right now doing a big fundraiser on May 1st to put on an additional wing on the Savannah Lamar Hospitals, which is the pediatric ward. And just to make life a little better for babies and for parents, mothers delivering babies. So it's a free event for us next Saturday, but we ask for people to log on and give. And the funds collected from this fundraiser will go to Ghana, will go to Kenya, will go to India, just to help persons who really, really want to be aware of what their calling to Christendom is. And not just the Christendom, because the church without the community is not the church. The community without the church is not the community. So I believe that both organizations interlock and offer what we offer in terms of giving back. By us coming together we are stronger. And as a result of that, this is what we are hosting. It will be on the website of the EPPS School of Ministry, and there'll be a link you just click on and watch live, as well as the DCI Christian Institute. So those are the two mediums to reach. There's also a YouTube link that will be on that site that you could just click on and watch, as well as I have asked these organizations to make their donate button a little bigger so nobody don't think that they did not see it. Because the whole idea is to help others and to donate whatever you can. Both institutions are registered 501c3. So if you want to give for your tax purpose write-off, you know, you can feel free to give and it will definitely be acknowledged. And you're also noted on that. I have also invited the one and only Lady D to be part of this with me. She talks a lot in terms of positive and convincing talk. I don't have the convincing talk to talk. I have the convincing voice to sing. So she will be a part of this fundraiser. And I am really humbled to be able to do this. When we think we lack, we really don't lack. There are others who, like really, really hard life. These guys cannot afford internet. And we walk around with our cell phones loaded with data, and somebody wants to learn but cannot afford to learn because they cannot afford internet. So we are just using that those funds raised, to help these people just to attend school online.
My goodness, that's phenomenal right there. Thank you, Joan, for explaining that so very well. The Lord touches us in so many different ways. And if you right now, you're out there listening, I hate to say that we're begging, but in actuality, we're just asking, we're just the mouthpiece for those who are in need. And I really don't have any problem asking for somebody else. And I'm sure you won't have any problem giving for somebody else as well. So if right now, the function is slated for Saturday, April the 10th, 2021, and it starts at 6 p.m. It's just a couple of weeks away, but you can put a little bit aside right now and pick up the phone or whatever. How would they get in touch with you, Pastor? See, now I switch gear. You were a doctor before, but now you're a pastor, Reverend Doctor. You know, I'm changing it now. How can they get in touch with you to make a donation?
We encourage people to go to the website, www.EPPSSchoolofMinistry.org. And they will be able to go on that website, and there's a donate or give to the school button, and people will be able to give. I just want to put a plug in for the Cash Savers group, who have come on board when they realized what we were doing with the school. And they have been contributing also and are partnering with us, especially to help those persons that are in need outside of the United States.